Hi, this is Robert DeStott. I'm founder of TMI Tennis Academy. This training tape is broken down into 3 sections. Section 1 will be led by Master USPTA Pro Mike Van Zuffen to my right. He will demonstrate the technical techniques of the tennis game as well as technical drill. Part 2 will be led by Robert Page, head trainer for TMI. He will lead the conditioning and the footwork drill. And the third part will be led by Dr. Stevenson for rehab and rehabilitation, how to correct minor injuries when an athlete gets hurt.
Hi, I'm Robert Page, ATC CSCS. Today we will be presenting advanced footwork patterns for the tennis player. The first and most important exercise that we have are what we call alley bounce. And what we're doing is we're trying to teach the body to load each leg effectively. Ready? Go. As you can see, they bounce side to side along the alley. Each knee comes in, the hip does not go over the foot, but stays in the center line. The arms are to the side, their eyes are up, heads are up. Now for a more detailed breakdown of the alley bounce. First, the toes are pointed forward towards the net. The instep of the foot is to the outside of the player's shoulder, as we see here. Second, we also see that the knees are bent about 20 degrees and the butt is sat back. The chest is up and the eyes are facing forward. Please turn back. Now the loading in which we want each player to feel is, please come to this side. We want to feel the load here. As the knee drops, the leg drops, and she lifts and bounces to the other side. Go ahead. Okay? Notice she doesn't take her weight to the outside of the leg. She allows the weight to stay in the center as the leg drops down, and she lifts and pushes back to the other side. Go ahead. Okay? And now we will take these specific steps and put them together. Go ahead and go slow, please. Notice as she drops her legs, puts the weight on the leg as she lifts one foot and pushes off. Okay, now speed it up. Now full speed. Notice as she keeps her chest up, the legs stay bent, she pushes off with each leg. Notice the feet stay forward, pointing towards the net. And the knees stay inside of the ankles. The next exercise we have is a side-to-side bounce. We use the singles court and use our wide open bounce from the alley, and we begin to lift and push by lifting the outside leg and pushing with the drop leg, as we saw in the alley bounce. Ready? Go. As you can see, each player keeps their feet wide, their chest up, their head facing the net, as they lift the lead leg and push with the trail leg. Notice how they transfer the load upon the touching of the sideline and explode back. Their feet do not come close together, they stay wide apart as they lift and push. Now, building on the alley bounce, we add the side-to-side bounce, which is lateral movement. The most important technique here is to build from the alley bounce and use the lift and push technique that we explained in the alley bounce. If she wants to move to her right, she will lift the right leg and push with the left. Go ahead. Now, poor technique is not lifting with the outside leg. If she wants to continue to move to the right, she only pushes with the left leg. Please show bad technique. Go ahead, again. Now, each foot in poor technique is each foot is replaced. With the lift and push technique, the outside foot or the foot in which they want to go, the direction, they lift. Go ahead, good technique. Okay, now we will go side to side within the singles court. Ready? Go. Slow. Notice, she lifts her outside leg and pushes with the trail leg. Also very important is building from the alley bounce. Notice how she transfers her weight when she stops at the singles court. It's again building from the alley bounce. As you can see, each player keeps their feet wide, their chest up, their head facing the net as they lift the lead leg and push with the trail leg. The next drill we will have is the half circle drill. And what we do with the half circle drill is it's the small adjustment steps before a shot, both the forehand and the backhand, working around the ball. This is to teach proper footwork patterns and keeping the legs wide as they move around the ball. Ready? Go. Notice as they get around, they use the entire half of the court, they work around. Prepare as they cross the midline, forehand, and they follow through with the foot. As soon as they follow through with the foot, they drop it back and continue in their half circle pattern. Notice how the feet stay together. They continue to use the lift and push technique. Now once we have mastered the side-to-side movement, we can now add in another direction towards the net. This direction is the half circle direction. This is as you're bouncing around a ball to prepare for a forehand or prepare for a backhand. These are the small adjustment steps that are needed for a perfect shot. Okay, ready? To your left, go. Now it's taking the same lift and push technique, going in a half circle around. As she moves to her left, to her forehand side, she will prepare. Go. She drops the follow-through leg through as a balance point and moves back to the backhand side. Once she hits the midline again, she prepares for the forehand. And the midline, she prepares for the backhand. Notice as she steps with her lead foot in each stroke, she's on the balls of her feet. That allows for proper rotation to execute the shot. Also notice her chest and her eyes are always facing towards the net. The next drill we have is the T drill. This allows the player to move laterally and prepare for an upcoming shot, such as a backhand down the line. Ready? Go. Notice as they pivot on their foot, they keep their feet open and they stay in their athletic stance as they lift and push towards the ball. Once they come forward to the net, they prepare their arms as they prepare for the shot. The thought here is the preparation steps prior to stroking the ball are our adjustment steps. Notice as they keep their eyes looking forward towards the net, follow the ball in, and execute the shot. This can be done to both the forehand and backhand side. The player will move 3 shuffles or 3 lift and push to the middle. Then she will open up and drop the leg towards the ball, or where she anticipates the ball to be, as she begins to bounce forward and adjust step towards the ball. Go. Very important here is that the feet stay wide, just as we've taught in the alley bounce and the side to side, as well as the half circle. And when she rotates to the ball, the feet do not come close together, but she uses it as a balance point as she approaches the ball. Good. Now go backhand side. Yep, go backhand. Now she will take to the backhand. Same footwork pattern to the opposite side. Notice as she stays in the athletic position, this is very important. We want to keep the head on one level plane as we're playing tennis. The next drill we have is called the turn and drive, 1 step. What we are trying to teach here is the ability to turn and drive and run in a sprint towards the next shot. What we want to do is open the foot and drive the opposite leg. Ready? Go. You then open your opposite leg up into the bounce position. Notice as they look forward towards the net and drive each time they go. The knee drives up as they rotate. As we see the turn and drive here, again, what we see here is she drives the leg in which she wants to go, the right or left leg, the outside leg, if you will, in the direction she wants to go. This is very important for generating power. And notice her lead foot, as she opens it up, she doesn't lose ground, but actually may gain a little bit of ground as she steps towards her target. Again, the turn and drive, 1 step. The next drill we have is called the turn and drive 3-step, which is just an addition of 2 steps to the turn and drive 1 step. This allows the player a footwork pattern to go for a more extended ball. Ready? Go. Notice each time they begin to decelerate, they open their outside leg up and drop it out as a balance point. Notice as they look forward to the net, as they allow their hips and legs to drive. The turn and drive 3-step. Okay, this is in addition to 2 steps to the turn and drive 1 step. We keep all the same technique, and the most important part is the opening of the leg on the 3rd step. Ready? Go. Notice, in her 3rd step, she drops her outside foot as a balance point. This is very important because many shots in tennis from the middle of the court will only be 3 steps for Tika. Notice again, very important, she drops her outside foot out rather than bringing her feet closer together. Again, in the bounce ready position upon stopping. The next drill we have is middle turn and drive. The reason for this exercise is we want the player to be able to go from the bounce position to a sprint position. This also doubles as a conditioning exercise. We'll go from singles court to singles court. Ready? Go. Notice they sprint to the sideline, drop the outside foot as they push off, back into the lift and push technique of the bounce, and open up and turn and drive again. Notice there is no hop in the middle in their transition. Also notice their heads and eyes look forward as they allow their bodies to do the work. Building upon our shuffle and our turn and drive, we now combine them together. The first will be a turn and drive to the singles court sideline, and then she will bounce back to the middle. The very important part is the transition in the middle. You want the feet not to come close to the midline, but to stay wide, and for the turn and drive to happen. Okay? Go ahead, Elnay. Notice she also keeps her chest forward towards the net and her eyes towards the net as she breaks down. Notice in her transition, once she gets prepared to go, she points the lead foot and drives the opposite foot. The next drill we have is sprint, turn, bounce. Now we want to take the player from a sprint to the bounce. We'll transition at the middle of the court and go to the doubles sidelines. Ready? Go. Most important, you want to notice the transition at the middle of the court. There is no hop, the feet do not come close together, but the foot opens up as the player bounces. They then turn and drive once they hit the double sideline, back to bouncing across the middle. Again, notice their heads as they look forward. The sprint, turn, and bounce. Okay? Go ahead. Now again, it's putting together all of the earlier working with the alley bounce and the turn and drive. Now the transition is from a sprint to a shuffle. Again, notice as she opens on her transition, she opens the legs to be wide as she lift and push. Again, once she pivots and drives, Each time she's coming forward into the sprint position, she is always driving her opposite leg. The next drill we have is baseline to net breakdowns. First, when the player moves, we will have them step with their right or left foot, and we will designate it. This eliminates false steps. Second, they will break down at the net, touch the net, and drop their back foot as if they were going for an overhead to the side in which they started. They will then break down again at the baseline and turn around to face the net to go once again. Ready? Go. Notice as they step with their right foot, specifically in this exercise, they break down their feet before the line and drive as they touch the net. They break down in a very controlled fashion to touch the net, and they're back. The most important part is the first step towards the net. Okay? In an attempt to eliminate any false step or stepping backwards away from a net, we want to pick a foot in which we start with. In this case, we will start with the right foot. Elne is in the athletic position. She will step with the right foot into a sprint. Once she gets to the net, she will break down in a controlled fashion. She will then touch the net and break out or turn to the foot in which she started. So the right side in this case. We will show both left and right side. Once she touches the net, the footwork towards touching the net, once she turns and opens, is just as if you were taking an overhead. Ready? Go. Notice as you hear her feet, when she breaks down, you do not hear stomping, you hear her feet sliding along the court as she comes in a controlled descent. Baseline net breakdown with the left foot. Elne will start with her left foot. As she approaches the net in a breakdown, she will then turn to her left-hand side. She will open up with the left foot and drive with the right foot. Ready? Go. Notice each time she approaches the baseline, she does what she did at the net. She breaks down her feet and stops and turns. And now she's ready to go again with the left foot and drive out from the net. Half circle in the alley. Now the first series we presented half circle through most of the court. Now we're looking for a quick preparation to work around a ball, and we're going to use the alley line to dictate that movement. Ready? Go. Notice their feet as they keep them wide apart as they work around a ball. They make sure that as soon as they step to the forehand side, they prepare quickly. Racket face down. Prepare for the stroke, set their feet, and complete the stroke. As soon as they float their foot back around, they drop it back around to finish the half circle. The next exercise is alley T-drill. Now again, we are building from the T-drill footwork that we presented in the first series. Now we want to keep this within the alley. It's a very quick preparation. Ready? Go. Notice, as they begin to go for each shot, they prepare as they open to the back of the middle into the alley. They plant their feet and execute the shot. Notice they keep their feet wide as they prepare for each shot. They finish the stroke, and again, we drop the foot right back to where they came. Notice each player has their toe pointed towards the ball, and they rotate and pivot on the front foot. The next exercise we have is a cone-to-cone breaking down of the feet. We want to teach the players athletic movement. So the first we will do this without stroke. Begin. The player will break their feet down on the outside of the cone. And notice as they plant on the outside of the foot. They turn and drive their knee to the next cone in which they are going. And again, this is just a zigzag through the cones. But I want to teach them proper footwork and how to break their feet down when they want to stop and where they want to go. It's very important here to get your feet into position so you stay off of the cone and you're able to turn and drive the outside leg to the next cone. And this movement represents the recovery position that we want the player to be in after the stroke. Now, the next variation to this is we add a stroke at each cone. Now, the player does the same type of footwork where they break down their feet and split over the cone. Begin. Now they go to the backhand and then to the forehand, and you see as they recover each time, break down over the cone. The cone is very helpful in making sure that the player breaks down slowly and spreads their feet in a slow fashion and has a good, strong base for their stroke. Other variations of this exercise may include you running from sideline to sideline. You can use as many players as you would like in here. And in this exercise, we get a 1-to-4 work-to-rest ratio. If you have more players, you can split it up into two sides of the court. Now, these cones can be set up on both sides of the court so that the first steps are towards a forehand as opposed to the backhand. So these two cones on the outside may be moved to the other side of the court. The next exercise we take from the sprint, turn, and bounce presented in the first series. Now, next we will do the sprint turn to a half circle. We were able to use a sprint turn to the half circle and a sprint turn to the T, and now you will see sprint turn to the half circle. Now we are taking the turn and drive and the opening of the feet into a half circle. Go. And now they bounce to the opposite side and drive from the other side and open to a half circle forehand. Now they bounce themselves back, turn and drive again into the middle of the court for a workaround or half circle backhand. Notice they are taking all the same footwork principles as presented in the first series. And now we are just adding stroke and two exercises together. This doubles well as a good conditioning exercise. Again, notice as soon as they open up, they prepare for each stroke. Racket back, feet are in position, set the feet stroke. Now the next variation of this exercise is a sprint turn to the T drill. Now instead of the half circle, the player will now do a T drill off of the turn. Ready? Go. They would again return to the sideline in the bounce position and drive to the middle. As they begin to get into the T, prepare each time. As soon as they know what stroke they are going for, they prepare the racket back, and stroke. Next we have the sideline to sideline drill, which doubles well as a conditioning exercise. The first will be without stroke. We have the sideline to sideline, and at the end there will be a middle open, which we will show you. Go. Now they want to break their feet down to touch each cone. Notice again the outside foot drops so that they get in good position to push and turn and drive to the middle cone. They switch to go each opposite way, and they open in the middle. You see the footwork, break down, and open in the middle. Now you can go begin to the right and begin to the left. Now notice they are looking forward to the net with their head and their shoulders facing towards the cone. As they drive to each cone, they look back to the net in order to play a good tennis shot. Now we have the same sideline to sideline exercise with the middle open with the stroke. Go. Now they break their feet down over the cone. Stroke, they float the outside foot into the good recovery position and open again at the middle. So they've done a forehand, a backhand, or a backhand to a forehand, and return to the middle. The open step in the middle is very, very important. It's the footwork that we've taken from the first series on the middle turn and drive to where we open up into that bounce position. And finally, with the sideline to sideline, with the middle open, now we can pick as the coach which cone we want the player to go to. Ready? Go. They break down. Now watch, this is very important. The open so they can prepare to the next shot. They can read me and go. Next player. Now the next is from the middle turn and drive, which we presented earlier in the first series. Middle turn and drive, now we've added the stroke. And in this case we have the cones where I want them to have the stroke at. And go. Now we could do this with and without cones. Now notice their recovery position now is the bounce. Rather than a turn and drive back to the middle, now they bounce back to the middle and turn and drive to the next shot. Notice as they're breaking their feet down at each shot, splitting over the cone, making sure that they have a good platform for their stroke. Now we have the middle turn and drive with no cones. Once the player has picked up that they must break down their feet each time at the line and over the cone, you can remove the cone and just let them know that they need to break their feet down before they hit the sideline, to where they know in positionally that they are able to break their feet down wherever they want to on the court. Go. And again, we have the bounce back to the middle, and the middle step is a turn and drive step as presented in the first video series. Notice each time, once they've turned in the middle, they prepare their racket for the shot. This is very important. This also doubles very well as a conditioning exercise. Now all we have done is added the stroke. Use the same time parameters as discussed in our first video series. And next, we're going to have the middle turn and drive. Now the coach is going to point where he wants the stroke, and they will return to the middle, and then you will get to point to the next stroke. Ready? It is important for the athlete to watch this contact zone, but get their eyes back up in order to react to the point. Notice each time they use the technique that we presented in the first video, where they open step and turn and drive. Notice as each athlete also breaks down their feet before the sideline. Next we have the 3-cone drill. Okay? Each time the athlete will turn and drive to the cone and will recover back to the middle cone. At each cone they will have a stroke. Go. We'll start with the wide one first. Now watch as she turns and drives back to the middle. Then she's back to the approach shot and then to the middle court shot. Again, each time they set their feet over the cone and break down at the cone in the middle. It is important for them to get into the recovery position. Good. Each time you want to make sure that the athlete touches the middle cone. And breaks their feet down at each cone. Very good. Now the second variation in this exercise is to go from middle to wide. And you'll notice the footwork in this is much different than going from wide to the middle. And we will show that. Go. When she returns, she must open her left foot and point and drive at the next cone. This is very important as it takes away the inability to have a false step. We want each time the player to make sure that they open the foot and drive to each one of the cones. Very good. Good. It is very important to watch the feet here. As they break their feet down, they open and drive straight to the next cone. Open and drive to the next cone. Watch the left foot of each of the players. Make sure you turn this way, Oksana. Very good. open and drive to each of the cones. One more time. And notice it only takes them 2 steps to each of the cone before they're into their breakdown. Very good. And it is important to note that each time they are preparing for the shot, they have already prepared their racket face and their arms. Now we have taken the 3-cone drill to the opposite side. Now we're going forehands for the right-handers and backhands for the left-handers. Go. Notice the footwork is the same on both sides. Each time they get into the middle cone, they're opening their front step, their very first step, and pointing at the cone in which they want to go. They point at the foot in the direction in which they want to go each time. This is important because when we include a ball, we want the player to point their foot exactly where they want to go and make contact with the ball. And then again, just like on this side, we can now change the order and go from middle to the outside or wide shot. Go. And again, the footwork is the same. Here, now we just use the right foot to open and point towards the cone, as opposed to the left. Very good. Very good. And then again, important to note, the right foot in this position, once they've touched that middle cone, opens square to the cone. And they point the toe directly at the cone in which they are trying to make contact at stroke. The next exercise is an adaptation, okay, and an advancement from the 3-cone exercise to now 6 cones. The footwork is exactly the same as in the 3-cone drill. Now we've just added 3 more cones. Go. Again, this time we'll start with the right-hander's backhand side. Each time they break down their feet over each cone. Now again, this is where you want to pay attention to the footwork. The right foot comes out and points to the cone in which she wants to go. It allows us to create a situation in which the player has footwork patterns for any shot to be executed at the baseline. On middle court and wide. Now we can go the other way. We can go the other way and start with the forehand first for righties, or the backhand for the left-handers. And again, this is just putting together the 2 sides of our 3-cone drill into a 6-cone drill. Each time they come to the cone, they make sure that they sit their butt and spread the legs and break down their feet. This is very important. Very good. Next we have the footwork for the overhead. Now there's two sets of footwork here. For the right-handers we're going to start with the easier footwork, where they have to drop their right foot back and head to the right-hand side to the cone. They'll come up and touch the cone and head at a 45-degree angle to the cone. Important pieces are that they break down at the cone and that they turn and drive. They open their back foot or their right foot and then drive their left foot over the top. And it's important to keep their head up to mimic an overhead stroke. Again, it's important to turn and drive back. Now we'll see that this, for the left-handed player, this is the more difficult footwork, is to move back behind them to the right-hand side. Again, it is important here to get back as far as you can first and break down your feet and come forward through the ball. And notice as the left-hander comes through, you'll notice her drop her foot back, her left foot, and turn and drive over the top with the right. And notice as her knees point back towards the baseline, and not towards the sideline with a side over step. And now we will go for the harder footwork for the right-handers and the more easy footwork for the left-hander. Again, opens her right foot and points it back at the back cone and turns and drives with the knees facing more towards the baseline than to the sideline. Good. And finally, we have the approach shot with the volley. The footwork here is we want to hit this approach shot, and this is very important to execute this first shot because you won't get the volley unless you place the approach shot in which you want to. So the first, now we'll have for the right-handers, we'll break down and have a backhand, and then we will come to a backhand volley here. And for the left-hander, it will be a forehand and a forehand volley. Go. We want to make sure that when we get to the volley, we stick the volley. We want to make sure that we split step when we get into this attack zone. Notice as each one of the players, when they execute the volley, they want to keep their chest up, put the leg out. They want to recover with the back leg. Next, what we have is to the opposite side. For the right-handers, it will be a forehand approach shot to a forehand volley. For the left-handers, it will be a backhand and a backhand volley. Again, it's important to stick the volley. Make sure you stay into the lunge all the way through the stroke. Make sure your eyes are at contact. And you want to break off towards the middle. The next variation of this approach shot to volley exercise, okay, is where the coach can point to the approach shot and which side they want the split step to the volley to happen. Ready? This makes the athlete get their eyes up and look and react without a ball. The most important aspects of our footwork development are the load and transferring the load through each leg. Legs working independently of one another, as we see in the lift and push, and the bounce, okay? And the turn and drive, which is very important for us to move laterally and anywhere positionally upon the court. Please pay attention for our future series, as we will have many more to come. Thank you.